when you study this text a little bit, you see that a lot of the tradition has layered over this from the first century towards the late part of the first century when Matthew was thought to have written his gospel. To personalize the story, scholars and studiers have tried to identify who these wise men were. And we typically identify 3 of them, but we really don't know. There were wise men, there were at least 2. So we tried to find who they were, and some people speculate their names. Some have tried to establish the origin of the wise men, where they came from, but no one really knows. The text certainly doesn't tell us. All it says is they came from the east. And you will notice in the text that they must have arrived sometime after the birth of Jesus, because who saw what it said in verse 11? That when they visited the child and Mary and Joseph, where did they visit him? It was in a house. So there's some layering of tradition that we have put on this text over the years, not all bad. But in the midst of all that, let's be mindful and not lose sight of the 3 primary points that I think this text has to remind us and offer us today. That the Magi were seeking after the light, the star shining above Bethlehem. And that is a sign and a witness from Matthew reminding us that Jesus is the light of the world. And all the signs of heaven, he reminds us, pointed to this, called this, proclaimed this. Secondly, the Magi really represent us because they are the travelers from an international origin. They were not Jews, they were Gentiles in that day and age. If you weren't a Jew, then you were a Gentile. So they're us. Where there's room. The manger or the house, in this case, for us too. And it's another reminder Matthew weaves into his text that this is good news, not just for the people who are called Hebrews, but for all people. And finally, they were willing to leave their comfort zones in order to encounter and to meet the Messiah, the new King, Jesus. And wise men and women still seek to encounter the living Christ. What are we willing to let go of? What comforts in our lives do we really know that we may need to leave behind, that we too may encounter Jesus? Richard Rohr, in a wonderful analysis, says that what has happened to us over the years is that the subjective self has become the objective truth. That we are told that what is most real about us is our internal life and our feelings. They become the objective truth, the only reality that there is. But the passage and message of the wise men and the star and the Christian faith stands strongly over against this and says that the most important part about your life is not what has happened to us in the past and not where you are right now. The most important part about our life is the fact that is what God is inviting us, calling us, offering, and moving us to today. Amen. God has given us a new life. And it means sometimes we got to get up and move towards it. What are you seeking in this new year? What are you seeking in this new year as you journey towards Jesus? Is it healing? And when we talk about healing, it's more than just cure. I mean, we all pray and desire a cure for our diseases and the difficult things that happen in our lives. But the truth is, if you look at the statistics, more healing happens than cure. Because healing is about more than physical ailment or Disablement, healing is about your soul being made whole in the midst of any and all circumstance. Discovering the healing love of God, no matter the darkness. Is it perhaps struggling with the principalities and powers in your life and you're seeking for peace? The scripture says Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and when you allow that love to start to grow in your heart, the Spirit of God grows in you, and it starts to change your mind and your ethics and your behavior and your choices. And instead of feeling kind of discordant and disconnected, all of a sudden there's this wholeness about your choices and your lifestyle that makes you feel blessed. Maybe it's forgiveness. Maybe there's a part of your life, a past, as Richard Rohr says, that still is eating at you, that you feel still makes you broken and unforgivable. Not in the presence of Jesus. There's nothing you have done or thought about yourself that is not forgivable and lovable by God. Ezekiel chapter 36, as Ezekiel has this vision of this new life that God offers us, remembers it in this way. He says, I will sprinkle water on you and make you clean from all your idols and everything else that has defiled you. I will give you a new heart and a new mind. And I will take away your stubborn heart of stone and give you an obedient heart. There's no sin, no behavior, no brokenness that God cannot forgive you, and by the movement of God's Spirit grow and give a new heart to you. How will this year be different for you in your journey to the manger, to the house, to Bethlehem? I think for my life, I think about the image of a cross, that when I think about the things I want to do and grow in for the new year, I want to be about something that grows me deeper in relationship with God, and I think about something that enables me to move out past myself in relationship and connection towards others. So let me share with you 2 or 3 of the goals I have for 2015. One is a professional goal. I've been accepted into what they call the Preaching Academy through the annual conference. It'll be something that will happen over the next 6 months, and periodically I'll go away for overnights to work on the craft of preaching and worship leading. And part of that intention for me is I think about the people that are called the nuns. You know, if they ever did a survey and they had you check off whether you were Christian or Jewish or you were spiritual but not religious, they're called the nuns in the vernacular of somebody. And I want to know, how can our ministry and my ministry be more sensitive to those who feel like the church has no place in their lives and hearts anymore, who maybe have marginalized themselves from God? Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this journal, and I'm starting to journal every morning. I'm going to get up 15 minutes earlier, Ellen. Starting tomorrow, by the way. And pray a little bit, write down my prayer concerns in here, read a little scripture, and just be quiet and listen to what is going on in my spirit, what God might be saying, and just write it down and have a conversation with God as a way of my growing deeper in my relationship with God. And you probably won't see me in the office as much this year, although I'll be available. I'm going to go hang out at places. I may actually go to some of the, what do they call bars and taverns? Bars and taverns, right? And drink Diet Pop. But also go to Mimi's and some of the other establishments and just do my work there for a while, because I want to hear what people around us are saying. Not the people if I see you every day, I know I don't hear what's really hurting everybody too. And so I'll be available to my cell phone, but I'll be spending more time at some of these places wanting to listen to what the needs of people are so that we and I can be more sensitive to how we can share the good news with people that I may not always be in the presence of. Those are 3 things I'm doing to put aside being in my comfort zone. Let me tell you, hanging out in an office can be really comfortable, you know. But I want to move out of my comfort zone and join the Magi in seeking the presence of Jesus, both in relationship and in this community. What are you doing this year to grow, to seek, to lay aside some of those comfort zones and make a difference?